The Chicago Bears are getting set to take on the San Francisco 49ers in the inaugural game of the Thomas Brown era. We'll give you our predictions and previews coming up. In baseball, the Chicago White Sox lost the local baseball and broadcasting legend. In basketball, Ayo Dosunmu gets his first career triple-double as the Chicago Bulls beat the San Antonio Spurs on the road. It's championship weekend in college football. We'll give you our previews and predictions coming up. And to wrap up the show, we'll have a very special guest, Mr. Larry Beil, former ESPN Sports Center anchor and now ABC 7 News anchor out there in the Bay Area. That and a whole lot more as the Second City Sports hashtag Football Friday edition starts right now. Welcome to this hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports, the first for the month of December. You're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. You know that's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kills again, the IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I'll give Lakina full powers to give you fools to Bill and Beer boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, whether you're watching us live or on the replay, shout out to the replay gang. You can watch Second City Sports and other Sports Zone Chicago programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. No matter when or where, we are here for you all the time, and you know we will provide. Still got to work on that intro. The last part of that intro.
Yeah. Well, you can keep practicing that now.
Thank you.
We got to go geared up for the holiday season here on Second City Sports as it continues. Of course, we're gonna Ayo Dosunmu had a nice showing last night. First career triple-double as the Bulls beat the Wemby-less Spurs, but they took care of business. Actually, the Bulls actually had a good week this week. They went 2-0, so that's exciting. We'll talk about that in the rest of the week in the NBA. Also, of course, we're going to do a little college too. So there were some upsets on the statement game this early on, and also championship weekend starts tonight in college football as playoff berths are in the balance, and of course the rest of our NFL week 14 previews is getting a little tight at the top there with our picks, and also we're going to have a sports anchor legend joining us, as Sid said earlier, Larry Beil from KGO-TV, which is the ABC 7 affiliate in San Francisco. We'll preview 49ers Bears and the rest of the Bay Area scene. A busy time out there in the Bay Area, and a viral message that he sent about a month ago regarding the Oakland A's. We'll talk about that with him later on in the show. But first, speaking of Bears 49ers, of course, the Bears are on their way to Santa Clara as we speak to to play the 49ers coming up, and Thomas Brown era, this and that. Of course, the 49ers are also in free fall for different reasons as well. Now, as far as the Bears are concerned, Sid, there are no more excuses. Everyone, they kept saying, "Oh, Shane Waldron, okay, he's gone. Matt Eberflus, okay, he's gone now." So it's actually put up or shut up time for for Thomas Brown for these Bears team as well. So for me, I kind of, we'll do our picks and stuff, as we get into it. But so where do you see this matchup?
Mhm. Well, let's see this matchup is the Bears hopefully being consistent, getting back to the basics, and that's running the football. You have DeAndre Swift with his role now. You have Roshan Johnson, who's the goal line running back. Once they get inside the 10-yard line, once you do that, it opens things up for everybody else with that offense, especially Caleb Williams. We've been talking about this all season, Lakina. We saw a small sample size of this during that short 3-game winning streak late September, early October before everything hit the fan. So if the Bears can follow their script, they'll be fine, but it's going to be tough against that surprisingly revamped 49ers defense. But it's what we talked about on the show on Monday. It's all about from this here on out. It's all about the development of Caleb Williams first, and then everything else falls in line. But what the challenge is going to be for the Chicago Bears team, even though you mentioned with the 49ers injuries on the other side, can the Bears keep up defensively? They have issues too. We know about Jaquan Brisker being on IR along with defensive tackle Andrew Billings, but Jalen Johnson, he's been making news on and off the field over the last few weeks. You know what happened after that disaster last Thursday in Detroit. He yelled at Matt Eberflus, and then things just went out ahead verbally. But there's some certain players, especially on the defensive side, that needs to step up coming up on Sunday. Jalen Johnson is one of them. I'm putting him on notice along with Montez Sweat. So the Bears have that work cut out for them. We're going to watch them on offense because of Caleb Williams. It starts to end with him, but I'm putting pressure on their defense given the issues on the other side for the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers injuries, they've been well documented, of course. Christian McCaffrey's up for the year. And we've seen other guys be banged up. Debo's, Samuel's been banged up. George Kittle's been banged up here and there. Brock Purdy's been banged up as well. So if you're the Bears, I think, look, you are catching San Francisco at the right time, but at the same time, though, look, in the NFC West is still up for grabs. So the 49ers are, because I've heard like some pundits here in Chicago say, well, the 49ers really have anything to play for. Well, actually, yes, they do, because remember, that division is still up for grabs. So for people to say, oh, well, they're not the play, well, they're 5-7, they're still right there in the thick of that division. So look, I think Kyle Shanahan's job security. We'll talk about that with Larry Beil coming up. Later on the show. But look, you've got Purdy is still pretty good. Juwan James has been one of their top bill receivers. Of course, we know what George Kittle can do. On the other side of the defense, we know Nick Bosa's been banged up. Fred Warner's playing with a fractured ankle. I know Charvarius Ward, I know he's been banged up as well. So they still, look, the 49ers still have got guys. The problem is that a lot of their other guys have not been able to stay healthy, and that's been one of the big problems for the 49ers. So it's not like the Bears are gonna go to Santa Clara, which they've had issues. They only do this trip every 3 or 4 years. And look, as far as the Bears are concerned, like I said, I mean, all the problems that that were complaining about, they're all gone now. So this is your time to shine. Look, Thomas Brown, I know some people say, well, look, if he does well, hey, I will lobby him for the job. But again, I don't want this to be like an Antonio Pierce situation where they show a little bit of spark, they play a little bit better, they maybe win a game or two, and then he ends up getting the job. And look, you saw what happened with Antonio Pierce. Especially now you got Tom Brady, not part of the ownership group. He's going to want to bring his own guy. So it's a lot of little nuances and little details here that there's still a lot to be decided.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago on the hashtag Football Friday edition, the first one for the month of December. I'm Sid. That's Lakina, as Rigisha said, for this Sunday's matchup between the Chicago Bears and the San Francisco 49ers. Taking a look at some of the numbers via the rankings heading into Sunday's game. Offensively, the Bears are ranked 28th, fourth from the bottom in the NFL, while the 49ers are ranked number 7. In total defense, the Bears 18th, the 49ers 4th overall. In passing, the Bears 27th, the 49ers at number 11. In total rushing, 49ers at 7th, the Bears at number 23. Lakina, is just as simple as I said at the top of this segment. The Bears had to establish the run early, come out the bus running with DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson. That makes things that much easier for Caleb Williams. And number 3, as my third point from what I started off this segment with, I'm watching, you talking about players that wanted things their own way. I'm watching for DJ Moore, who's been having a great last couple of weeks as far as receiving is concerned. And I'm looking for Cole Kmet to get at least 6, 7, 8 targets in this game. So remember, those two have been really outspoken about the previous two coaches that we mentioned that are no longer here. So I'm looking for a big production from those two guys on Sunday.
Also, the defense too. I think that Bears defense really needs to kind of step up. Of course, Eric Washington will be taking over the play calling duties there, and like I said, I mean, Isaiah Guerrero, who we talked about him a couple weeks ago when he had kind of had a breakout game, that Sunday nighter, and he's really going to be the guy that kind of, with McCaffrey being out and Jordan Addison being gone for the next few weeks, he's going to be kind of like the guy. So the Bears. Look, Montez Sweat and the rest of that group's going to have to try to stop them. And, it's going to be interesting to see like what kind of feels, the 49ers, what the mood's going to be there. And as far as the offense is concerned with Caleb Williams, I mean, like I said, that defense for the 49ers, I think they got a lot to prove. And there's still like a lot, like I said, we talked about a lot of the players on there. Look, Leonard Floyd, remember, former Bear. I know he didn't play very well the last time that he played against him when he was with the Rams, but I'm sure he loves playing his former team. So he wants to send a message. He wants to show folks that, hey, look, I should not have, y'all should not have let me go, even though that was a different regime at the time. So I think there's still like a lot of things. This could be one of those ugly games where it might be ugly, but not in a good way. So I don't know. I mean, I really don't know what this game's gonna feel like, because both these teams got a lot to play for still.
Well, more like you said for the 49ers, because they're still technically in this race in the NFC West Division. Seattle's on top, followed by Arizona, the Rams, and then themselves. So the 49ers have more to play for than Chicago. Now, Chicago, they should, as you mentioned, they should have a great attitude coming into this week. You really had nothing to play for at 4-8 besides your job. And you should go out there, play carefree, play clean football, play disciplined football, operate like we saw during a 3-game winning streak from early in the season, and things will be fine. But like you said, Lakina, and I said this at the top, I'm looking for that defense to step up. And no matter who's out there, they got all go out there and do their part.
And we know that Santa Clara has been kind of like a house of horrors for the Bears. So it's gonna be interesting to see like how that kind of sort of sets up, because like I said, the Bears, like I said, this game could go one 3 ways. Look, I mean, the Bears end up winning, in a close one. I don't know if San Francisco. I doubt this will happen. But I doubt San Francisco's going to blow them out. I just don't think that's going to happen, because they don't have the bodies for that. But look, could San Fran win in one of these fluky things that's happened over these last few weeks? I mean, could it be another blocked field goal? Could Caleb throw a pick six to somebody, to maybe a friend?
It's very possible.
To like a Fred Warner or a Shavarius Ward. I mean, look, there's been other ways the Bears have lost. So, I think these are 3 of the routes that they could go on. So, it just don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting what our picks are going to be once we talk about this the rest of this game later.
Yeah, you mentioned Santa Clara being a house of horse for the Bears. They won, I believe, their last 2 visits out there. One in 2018, when it was the last time the Bears won a division. That was under Mitch Trubisky, and of course, when that arena opened in 2014, the Bears, under Jay Cutler, Brandon Marshall, Al Shaw, Jeffrey, and their crew, they beat the 49ers the second week on Sunday Night Football. So the Bears have had success in that new building. I know it's a decade old now, but that old Candlestick Park back in the day, outside of 1985, it was ugly history. I would just like to forget.
So it'll be interesting to see, like, the Bears are playing the late game, so oh goody, that should be interesting. We got 3:25. Oh goody. So that'll be interesting on Fox. Hey. All right, we're going to take a really quick break of Carrie. Listen to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Casey Brown with you as, excuse me, we'll talk a little bit. Do you want to go college football, or do you want to go Bulls and NBA?
Bulls NBA.
All right, the Bulls had a good week this week. They went 2-0. Yay. Ayo gets his first triple double of his career, and also definitely a yay worthy, and also so much more. And the Lakers, well, let's just say, well, if you're a Bulls fan, you could be the Lakers right now. And I'll leave it at that. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago.
The blame game.
Yes. Oh, it's already starting. Bulls NBA coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. You're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
We have exactly 85 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we talk Chicago Bulls, NBA, and a little college hoops here in this segment, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. NBA as the Bulls. The Bulls, so far it's had a perfect week. They took care of business against Brooklyn by 26 points. Vooch had 21 points in a double-double there on Monday. And, of course, yesterday, yes, there was no Victor Wembanyama. San Antonio did not have him. But even still, the Bulls took care of business. Yeah, 39. I know that was a bump. But, yeah, at least Vooch took advantage of that. 39 points for him, which is a season high. And also, too, Mr. Ayo Dosunmu got his first triple-double of his career, the pride of Morgan Park and the University of Illinois, as the Bulls took care of the Wemby-less Spurs 139-124. And I think the Bulls have 35 assists, which is a season high. They shot the ball well from 3-point range, and they were kind of shorthanded too. I mean, look, no Kobe, no P. Will, Lonzo's not playing because, of course, it's the first of back-to-back. They play the Pacers tonight at the UC, but Zach LaVine had 11 points, and just a good showing for the bench too. Dalen Terry had 12. Taylor Horton Tucker had 13. Dalen Terry had 11. So yeah, nice, a good solid team win for the Bulls.
And I like the way this Bulls bench has been playing a whole lot lately. It showed themselves last night. My guy Jalen Smith, he was the only person that played consistent minutes off the bench and didn't score in double figures, but that's all right. He had 9 points and 3 rebounds. Even though he struggled offensively, he still brings that energy. That's what I like about him. But you mentioned some of the other guys, Taylor Horton Tucker, the young veteran, he's been bringing it over the last couple of weeks. Montez Buzelis, it looks like he's starting to get his feet underneath him, I should say. It looks like Bulls head coach Beil knows what he's been doing as far as bringing Buzelis along here in these last 2 or 3 weeks. So it looks like it's finally paying off. But as far as Vucevic is concerned, looking at as an NBA fan, I was pissed last night that Victor Wembanyama did not play. But Vucevic took advantage of it, like you say. He's been on the run these last couple of weeks. Of course, he scored 32 points last Friday night against Boston in that NBA Cup elimination game. He came up a couple points short of reaching 30 again. You just mentioned earlier this week against Brooklyn, but he scored 39 last night. He wanted that ball, Lakina. Every person that he had guarding him, he had the matchup advantage, and he took advantage of it. So, and you notice most of his points came from inside the paint. I know he was 2 of 6 from downtown, but like I said, most of his points came inside the paint, and he took a full advantage of that. And when he does say he gets involved with the offense, we said this for the last 2 or 3 years. Once you get Vooch involved with the offense, it flows everything else through the rest of the guys. Yes, Zach LaVine struggled with the latter, but you saw other guys pick it up like Ayo Dosunmu, who's really has improved his play ever since the first couple of weeks of the season. So you really have to be proud of these guys. I think Stacey King is correct to an extent that this team is better. Will be better than what people think. I'm not saying go out and get your playoff tickets or anything like that, or they're going to make the play-in tournament, even though it's mathematically possible right now. But the way this Bulls team is playing is, like you said, especially regarding some of the key players that didn't play last night, you got to be very proud of them. Now sitting at 3 games below 500.
Yeah, they play Indiana tonight. Indiana, but they've had their struggles, this season. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially it looks like Lonzo will play. And we'll see if Kobe P will play as well. But it'll be interesting to see what mood the Bulls are going to be in once they face Indiana, because I would say take the over tonight with the Pacers over at the UC. So, 248.5 is the point spread. So we'll see if maybe you should take the over, I guess, if you're, we'll see what happens.
I think that's an easy call.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, take the over, of course. But going to the rest of the NBA, well, to the rest of the NBA from yesterday, Jonathan Kuminga had 33, which is no, that's not a career high. That's near a career high, as the Warriors beat the Rockets. Saw a little bit of this game on NBA TV yesterday, and Steph didn't have his best showing. That happens sometimes, but Kuminga stepped up, and the Warriors played very well there. The Pelicans and the Suns, it was kind of back and forth. The Suns came back. I saw a little bit of this game on the computer here, and Herb Jones blocked Devin Booker with could have been a potential 3-pointer that would have won the game for Phoenix. But yeah, the Pelicans were able to get defensive stops late, and they were able to pull it out.
Going back to that Warriors game, Steph Curry and Draymond Green did not play last night, so it was up to the Warriors role players, and they got it done against a very good Houston Rockets team. Now, regarding that Phoenix New Orleans game last night, Kevin Durant is injured again. I know he got injured over the weekend, and we talked about, so he's going to be out 1 to 2 weeks with that injured ankle. And this is where we talked about health being an issue for the Phoenix Suns. And in that situation, like you just described, you need a guy like Kevin Durant to take the pressure off the rest of the guys. He's the man. He can take on. He's been through that situation many times. I know Devin Booker's been there for a long time too, but this is where the value of Kevin Durant enters the picture, and the Phoenix just doesn't have that right now.
We'll see what happens these next couple of weeks here for the Suns. Memphis beat Sacramento 115-110. OKC no trouble with Toronto. The Knicks have been come together a little bit. They no trouble with the Hornets. 125-101. Cat had 27 points there. Brendan Miller had 26 in the losing effort. Dallas took care of the Wizards, 137-101. Kyrie had 25. Cleveland, no trouble with Denver, 28 points for Spida. Donovan Mitchell there in that game. Yeah, I don't think anybody saw that, but I think Cleveland, ever since they lost to Boston, they're kind of showing both said, yeah, they might have gotten smacked in the face a little bit, but they'll take it.
Yeah, and they beat Boston at home. This last Sunday, we talked about it on our last show. It looks like Cleveland, as we said before, as long as they stay healthy, they'll be a top 3, top 5 seed in the East. Give new head coach Kenny Atkinson a lot of credit. Donovan Mitchell doesn't have to do everything for Cleveland. We all know that he's that go-to guy, but he can play off the ball. Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen, my guy. All 3 of those guys going to have to stay healthy. If they can, they'll be dangerous.
Very dangerous. And going to Wednesday's games, Minnesota, the T-Wolves, they hammer the Clippers 108-80, and Julius Randle had 20 points for them. Probably their best showing so far this year. I'll get to that in a minute. Atlanta beat Philly. Orlando edged out. Atlanta beat Milwaukee, I should say. Orlando beat Philly. Miami beat the Lakers. Let's just say it's getting a little testy over there in Lakers. Brooklyn, no trouble with Indiana. Boston, if you took the over in this game, I think you had a pretty nice midweek shake up there, 130-120 over Detroit. Jaylen Brown had 28 points for them. And on Tuesday, you got the Clippers, beat the Blazers. Sacramento beat Houston. Denver got the best of Golden State. Phoenix
This is the playing games, folks. The NBA Cup games, I should say. The last of them.
The NBA Cup games. Yeah, the last of the NBA Cup games. I should have said that beforehand. Phoenix and San Antonio, of course, this is when Kevin Durant twisted his ankle. Dallas beats Memphis. OKC beat Utah. Toronto beat Indiana. Knicks beat Orlando. The Bucks beat Detroit. Cleveland, no trouble with Washington, and the Sixers beat the Hornets.
Let's talk about that Lakers situation for just a moment. LeBron James, being passive aggressive once again. I'm not being on social media anymore. I need the ball, especially at crunch time. We're not playing any defense, and JJ Redick looks like he may be thrown under the bus once again. I don't know about you, Lakina. I respect LeBron James. He's a top 5 player of all time. Even though his skill, he's still good, but he's not what he once was. If anybody watched him closely over the last few years, you would understand what I'm saying. But these passive aggressive childish games, I don't know about you, but I'm sick of them, to be honest with you. Know your role. Help out Anthony Davis. Help out your teammates. Get it together. Let's go. The Lakers are a very good team. They're not a championship team, but the stuff that you did earlier in your career with the silly stuff behind the scenes is not going to work now. People are on to your games, and no one's afraid of you anymore, if that makes sense.
Well, they lost by 29 to Minnesota on Monday, and the T-Wolves are actually the only team that beat both the Lakers and the Clippers by 25 plus points in back-to-back games, whatever the order since the Clippers moved to Los Angeles back in 84, 85. So, the Clippers are actually in a better spot than the Lakers are right now, and I think the average point margin is about 30 points to the last 5 games for the Lakers, or 30 or 32 points or something like that. So something's amiss over there in Los Angeles, and is it the roster? Is it LeBron getting older? AD's getting older? Maybe the coaching just isn't the answer. I mean, I don't know, but unfortunately, this is one of those days where we probably just won't know for sure. And I think some heads gonna roll over there in Los Angeles, and I know I've listened to some people in LA, the podcast. Excuse me, the podcast and stuff. There's a lot of pointing going around. So I don't know what the Lakers can do at this point, but they need to do something to get out of this funk, or else it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah, I remember at this point last year, they were on their way to winning the first NBA Cup tournament, and then they took a big lull after that. Of course, some of their role players did not perform up to par last year. They got it together at the end of the year, but we saw what happened against Denver. But it was like the same scenario is starting to happen again. That some of their role players are inconsistent. They cannot shoot the ball from the outside, especially from three, i.e. LeBron James. And obviously, defensively, they've been horrible the last 2 games. So if they can play just a little bit better defense, even play Matador defense, I think they'll be okay in some of the role plays like Austin Reeves. We talked about don't connect for the last couple of weeks, but guys like Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell going to have to step in, step out. How about LeBron and AD?
He did have 20 points. I'm talking about D'Angelo Russell in that game against the T-Wolves on Monday, but it wasn't near enough because, like I said, they beat them by like 29. So, there and also Boston beat Miami and Atlanta beat the Pelicans to finish out that week in the NBA. Now going to this weekend's games, Orlando and Philadelphia at 6. These are tonight's games, by the way. We'll see if the Lakers can get back on track as they face an Atlanta team that's kind of been, sort of, mess. So maybe they can get this could be a get right game for them. We'll see. The first game of the ESPN doubleheader, you got Milwaukee and Boston. I'm sure a lot of people thought this would be a much better game, when they made the schedule. Bulls second game of the back-to-back, they host Indiana at the UC on CHSN. Yeah. Sacramento at 7 o'clock. They face San Antonio. That should be a good one. There, we'll see if Wemby is back here with those because he didn't play last night because of those back issues. Minnesota as Golden State. That should be a good one. That's at 9 o'clock. That's the second game of the ESPN doubleheader. And Utah and Portland round out tonight's schedule.
Your schedule for Saturday tomorrow games are as follows. At high noon, this is not a typo, folks. At high noon, the Cleveland Cavaliers will play on the road at Charlotte against the Hornets. The disappointing 6-16 Hornets. Other games of note for tomorrow: Denver visits our nation's capital against Washington. OKC against the Pelicans. Detroit will pay a visit to MSG to face the New York Knicks. Dallas and Toronto north of the border. Memphis visits Boston. That should be a good one now since John Morant's back. And the rounding out tomorrow night schedule for Saturday night, Phoenix will pay a visit to Miami in South Beach to take on the Heat.
Should be a good one down there at South Beach. And Sunday, another high noon game. This could be, for all you Bulls fans, this could be like a nice little appetizer going to the Bears game since they don't play till 3:25 on Sunday. They host Philadelphia at the UC at noon. Milwaukee and Brooklyn at 2:30. Then you got Charlotte, Indiana, a little like matinee at 4. You got Denver and Atlanta. Cleveland and Miami at 5 o'clock. So Miami's going to have a back-to-back there. So will Phoenix, they go a little further north as they face Orlando at 5:30. Memphis and Washington at 6. New Orleans and San Antonio at 6. I'm going to try to watch this game. This should be a good one. Minnesota and Golden State at 7:30. Houston and the Clippers. Utah and Sacramento, and rounding out your weekend schedule, it will be the Blazers and the Lakers. Hopefully, this might be could be a get right game for them, but hopefully one of these next games for the Lakers will be a get right games for them.
All right, and that's your schedule for the NBA for this upcoming weekend. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you. Before we get to our thoughts about the passing of Chicago baseball, White Sox baseball legend Bill Melton. Lakina, you have a couple of nuggets on college basketball. I did check out the highlights between Auburn and Duke from earlier this week. Bruce Pearl had his guys up early, but it was Cooper Flagg and his castmates coming back at home at Camden on Coach K's court to defeat the Auburn Tigers. It was a very close one throughout, but Cooper Flagg led the way for the Blue Devils, especially in that second half.
Yeah, he's also the only D1 freshman in the last 25 years to lead his team, outright or tied in points, rebounds, assists, and blocks and steals, and win over a top 10 opponent in the AP. And Duke really needed this win because, of course, they've had their struggles. They struggled against Kentucky. They couldn't close it out there. They struggled against Kansas a few weeks ago. So this was definitely a game that they really needed. And it was, they had the Cameron Crazies there with them, but they really needed that game, that went for morale purposes because it was getting a little bit dicey. So they showed that they can win against the top 10 team. And Cooper Flagg, did show probably his best showing, 22 points there. So a really solid showing for Duke over Auburn. Now, Creighton did it again. They beat the number 1 team. This time they beat Kansas 76-63. Pop Isaacs had 27 points. He I think he's 3 for 5 from 3-point range. So it was really the 3-point range that kind of killed them against Kansas. Killed for Creighton that killed the Kansas there. But if you remember last season, I mean, look, they beat Creighton beat UConn at home. UConn didn't lose another game. They basically dominated after that. So we'll see if the same is true for Kansas.
Going back to Wednesday's action, number 10 Alabama goes into North Carolina. Shout out PD Pablo, and they upset. Even though they're ranked number 10, they still, for historical purposes, upset the North Carolina Tar Heels 94-79 in the ACC SEC Challenge. Is North Carolina in trouble?
No, I don't think North Carolina is. Look, Alabama's, Mark Sears had 20 points. And I know they lost one of their top guards for the year, so that's going to be a big loss for the tie. But look, they're still a top 10 squad. They're nice and deep. They just outshot North Carolina. North Carolina had no answer for them. So not a big surprise that Alabama was going to dominate North Carolina there. Now Iowa State, they're quietly undefeated still. They beat Well, they have one loss. They lost in one of the holiday tournaments, but they beat Marquette 81-70. Keyshawn Gilbert had 24 points there. Or in an old-fashioned Pac-12 now Big Ten matchup, you've got Oregon held off USC. Florida, speaking of the SEC AC Challenge, Florida no trouble with Virginia. Connecticut beat Baylor. I think Connecticut needed this win more than anything because of they went 0 for down there in that tournament down in the Bahamas. So they really need this win for, if nothing else, for morale purposes. So they definitely need that boost there. Memphis had a little bit of trouble with a lot of tech, but they were able to pull it out 81-71. PJ Haggerty had 23 points there for the Tigers.
Yeah, a couple of other games of note locally took place on Tuesday. Northern Illinois, they beat Benedictine 89-70. And, of course, Northwestern, who hosts the Final Illini tonight on FS1, they lost a tough road game at Iowa 80-79 on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think Northwestern was up a few, but then Iowa got the ball back and they got a buzzer beater. So early Big Ten matchup there for Iowa, and a nice win for them. They do play Illinois tonight, so that's going to be interesting there in the Big Ten. Of course, also Texas Tech beat DePaul, giving them their first loss of the season there. But Chris Holman, look, I haven't had to yell at DePaul, so that. Look, he's already doing a great job so far. He's already well held the curve. But Illinois and Northwestern, they play tonight. That'll be on the Big Ten Network at 8 o'clock. So that should be a fun matchup there. And it'll be interesting to see. I think Northwestern, if they want to go back to the tournament, they need to beat Illinois. Illinois has been playing very solid. They're number 19 in the country, so this could definitely help them, with their tournament resume if they beat them.
Yeah, Chris Collins and their crew up there with Northwest has a lot of work to do. I know they give Illinois a hard time over the last couple of years. So I think splitting in the last couple of years. So in their 2 matchups. So it's not going to be easy for Illinois. Both these teams are brand new because of some of the stars we're used to seeing over the last 2 or 3 years. They're no longer there on the program. So it should be a fun and entertaining game tonight up there in Evanston.
All right, going through some of the games here for this weekend. Tomorrow you got Kansas and St. John's. That should be a fun one. That's gonna be an early one at 10:30 at Carnesecca Arena. That should be a fun, emotional matchup there because they're playing on St. John's campus. So that's gonna be a lot of emotions there.
Against Crazy Faith, my guy. Against Crazy Faith in Kansas State.
Yes. It's going to be early start, though, 10:30 on Fox. The CW game, those of you in WGN scoring here at home here in Chicago, Syracuse, Notre Dame, that should be a fun one down there in South Bend. Clemson to Miami, that's going to be at 11 a.m. on ESPN2. Rutgers and Memphis on FS1. You got Nebraska and Michigan State, the Fighting Tom Izzos. That's going to be on the Big Ten Network. And Loyola, they host South Florida. That's 11:30 a.m. on the USA Network. So check out local listings there. Good one here for Battle of Wisconsin. You got Wisconsin and Marquette at 12:30 on Fox. Wisconsin had a tough loss against Nebraska. And Marquette, of course, we talked about the loss ahead to Iowa State. So both these teams are going to be wanting to redeem themselves there. Pitt and Virginia Tech at 1 o'clock on ESPNU. North Carolina hosts Georgia Tech. on ACC Network. Southern Utah against Arizona on CBS Sports Network at 1. Michigan and they host Iowa. Dusty May. They actually beat Wisconsin, so that should be a fun one. There, Dusty May's doing a great job already down there in Michigan. Let's see some of the other matchups. Virginia and SMU. That's the ACC matchup on the CW Network. That's taking a doubleheader there tomorrow. WGN-TV. Those who scoring at home. Washington State and Boise State at 3:00 on CBS. So get a little love there for those two schools nationally. Late games, you got Butler and Houston at 4:30 on ESPN2. Let's see here. No, that's not a matchup.
Yeah,
here.
Kentucky and Gonzaga tomorrow night on ESPN2. And the battle in Seattle.
Yeah, that should be a good one up there in Seattle. I think they're playing just outside the campus, so it will be a quote unquote neutral site. You know, they're going to play close to work, and they're about an hour away. But yeah, also the Battle of San Diego's. You got Steve Lavins, his San Diego Toritos. They play San Diego State, so that should be a fun one. Those of you they'll at 9:00.
All right, couple of games of note for Sunday. My guy, Penny Hardaway, number 16 in the country, the Memphis Tigers will host Arkansas State. That's on ESPNU at 3:00 Chicago time. Kansas, number 1, Kansas travels to Missouri to take on the Tigers. That's at high noon on ESPN2. Jackson State will travel to Iowa State to battle the Cyclones. That's at 5:00 on ESPN+. Number 9, Duke in Louisville at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on the ACC Network. And on the Big Ten Network, this is a former Pac-12 battle, now Big Ten battle. UCLA will travel to Oregon to take on the Ducks, who are ranked 12th in the nation.
This will never be weird, seeing these matchups in the Big Ten.
I know.
And also, yeah, at UConn, number 25 UConn against Texas, going to be at 4:00 on ESPN. And incidentally, that Kansas Missouri game, I'm getting old like Big 8, Big 12 vibes, from back in the day, because these two teams, they had their battle. So it should be a good one down there in Columbia, just like old times.
All right. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you. Lakina, we have a couple minutes left before we have to bounce for hour number 1. Local broadcasting legend and Chicago White Sox baseball legend Bill Melton passed away yesterday at the age of 79. He played for the White Sox in the 60s and the early 70s. He was a 1971 home run champion in the American League with 31 home runs. He was a White Sox studio television analyst from 1998 through 2019, working with Fox Sports Chicago, CSN, NBC Sports Chicago. And he worked with Isaac and Chuck Garfien, Luke Starkmeyer, who's over at CHGO now. He worked with a lot of people. Sierra Santos now, when she was working here in Chicago, now with the MLB Network. And all the tributes that I saw via the White Sox and some of his colleagues via the social media yesterday, they were heartfelt. I was a big fan of his. He did do radio sometimes because he was part of the White Sox branding department. He was their ambassador, so you would hear him sometimes on radio, especially when ESPN 1000 had the White Sox games the first time before they, during that time before they won the World Series in 05. ESPN 1000 here in Chicago had the games on the radio the first time, so you used to hear him on there with the now late great Dave Wills, who's also from here, who passed away a couple years ago. So I really enjoyed this analysis. He wasn't the typical, we're going to go through the motions and gave you some filler to please people. Was he like Isaac again? No, but he told it like it was, and he was very honest in his critiques, both good and bad, about the White Sox and Major League Baseball in general.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely very knowledgeable. He brought that knowledge into it and the years of experience. He wasn't afraid to criticize a team if need be. I think that's one of the reasons why we love Melty. And he embraced new technology, even though he hated it. I remember our girl Leila Rahimi, of course, does score twice a week. I know she posted some photos when they were doing a Sox pre-post, and he would not be happy if I wanted to take a selfie, but he embraced that. So that's why we love Melty, and it was tough hearing that news about his passing. And I know he kind of was slowly phased out, of course, when they brought Isaac Ian on and Scott Piscegna on. but he was definitely kind of still did little speaking engagements and such before he became ill, and of course he passed away early yesterday due to after a brief illness. So lots of prayers to him and his family and the whole White Sox organization. I know that they're probably gonna be doing some things for him going into the season. So it's gonna be interesting what kind of tributes they got planned for him.
Yeah, it stinks he won't be there, obviously, for the home opener on March 27th against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. But, the White Sox going to give him a special tribute opening day. And I'm sure they're going to do something with the Sox Fest Live next month. And so I'm sure they're going to do something in honor of him during their Fans Fest next month. So Bill Melton, as you said, he will be missed among former players, fans, and fans in the organization alike. So us here in Second City Sports and Sports Zone Chicago will send our well condolences to the Bill Melton family at this challenging time.
Well said, Sid. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up here on Second City Sports. Sports of Chicago, of course, we got Larry Beil from ABC 7 San Francisco to preview of Bears 49ers from the 49ers side of things. But first, of course, our girl Christy Mack is not with us today because she's doing a remote for KXRB. But we've got some interesting developments coming up with our picks, and also too, of course, with a little college football as well as Championship Saturday commenced. Well, Championship weekend since it commenced actually started tonight because there are some championship games with a lot of playoff implications coming up tonight. So lots to do. So the key to Big East, Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Our NFL Week 14 picks coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. You're so
You know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition, the first for the month of December. You're live in the living color right here on Sports So Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keita McGee on the Twitter, X, and here's again, IG.
We have less than 55 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we dive into these NFL picks for week number 14 and preview college football's championship weekend, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Again, we'll get the up on the screen for you.
Okay, so incidentally, we talked about this in our group chat with our girl, KXRB's Christine Matica. Of course, she's at a remote right now. And actually, incidentally, the Windy City Bulls actually played their squad yesterday. Of course, their squad sadly beat the Windy City Bulls. So I'm sure Christine had a good time last night up there. But incidentally, we both have 122, so we're tied. You have 119. We all had you would have had a perfect week if not for Cincinnati. So yeah, but Christine had a perfect weekend. So so hopefully we can keep it going this week.
Yep, and one game that was played last night to kick off week 14, the Detroit Lions beat the Green Bay Packers with a last-second field goal, 34-31. Jared Goff for the Lions, 32 of 41, 283 yards and 3 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs for the Packers, 18 carries, 66 yards rushing, and 3 touchdowns. Christian Watson, who had a fumble early in that game, he ended up with 4 receptions for 114 yards.
Yeah, Dan Campbell went for it on 4th down, not once but twice in that drive, and look, he's insane, and people are wondering could this come back to bite them in the butt if it does in the playoffs? But it's not. Look, it's not. It's not. It's working for them right now, and instantly, Jared Goff is the 3rd quarterback to have multiple years with at least 11 wins. He actually joins a pretty good list that includes that. Well, it's Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Jared Goff. Those are the only 3 players that have multiple years of 10+ wins in a season. So, he joins pretty good company there. We'll see if they can keep it going. Look, I know that I know Campbell said he wanted to end it on their offense because their defense has been. I think they lost one of their defensive linemen last night. So it actually ended up being an entertaining game. So if you took the over, you had a nice start to the weekend. And I don't think anybody had this being a high-scoring affair, but there you go.
Yep. So the Lions are clinched a playoff spot. They are 12-1 on the year. They have a stranglehold on the NFC North Division. The Packers dropped to 9-4 on the year.
All right, let's go to our the rest of these week 14 games. You got the Jets and the Dolphins, and incidentally, Christine has the Dolphins, and I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I have Miami too. I mean, Tua's been playing very well lately for the Dolphins, and these are just they're just spiraling out of control over there, the Jets. So I'm picking Miami.
Yeah, make it 3 for 3, Miami.
All right. Well, okay, that was somewhat easy. Now, of course, interesting matchup here. You got the 10-2 Vikings hosting the Falcons. I believe this game is going to be as part of the Fox matchup because they got the doubleheader this week. So yeah, I think this is going to be the game that'll air here in Chicago. So pick it short and sweet, Minnesota, and Christine also has Minnesota.
Can the Falcons win this game? Of course they can on paper. It's Kirk Cousins' return to Minnesota. He's not having a good year. 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. The Vikings, great win in comeback fashion against a young and hungry Arizona team last week by a point. I think this is going to be a closer game than what people expect, but that Vikings defense, they can confuse quarterbacks a bit, and I expect them to do that here against Kirk Cousins and crew. So I'm going with the Vikings. The Vikings are currently favored by 5.5. I have the Vikings winning, but if I was playing the point spread, I'm taking the Falcons. But we pick winners on this show. I'm going with Minnesota.
Could we see Michael Penix Jr. if Kirk Cousins doesn't do very well? That could be another question that might be answered on Sunday. Saints and Giants in the
the toilet bowl.
Yeah, well, I think it's more than the toilet bowl, but yeah, I guess the Saints are slightly better, although look, they got Drew Lock's been playing pretty well so far for the Giants. So but yeah, I'm picking New Orleans, and so is Christine. She also has New Orleans.
Make it for 3 New Orleans. I think they're going to lean heavily on that running game with Alpha Kamara. Remember, no Taysom Hill. He's out for the year. So we'll see what the Saints can do, especially on the defensively. You mentioned Drew Lock has been playing well. This could be a surprising upper 20s, lower 30s, a high scoring game. But I'm going with the Saints.
All right, the treatment here, I guess, the Panthers and the Eagles. I mean, the Panthers have actually been playing pretty well lately. I mean, they gave Tampa all they can handle last week, and the Eagles, they're starting to play better. They got their big win in Baltimore. I think the Panthers will keep it close just because I think Bryce Young's been playing better, but that defense could be a little bit too much for him. So I'm picking the Eagles, but I will say Carolina keeps it close.
Who does Christine have?
She has Philadelphia.
Okay. Make it 3 Philadelphia. Philadelphia's favored by 13 points. If I was playing the point spread, I would take the Panthers. But like you said, I think it's going to be closer than what people expect. Philadelphia, you mentioned with that big win in Baltimore last week. This could be a classic trap game for them. I would not be surprised if the Panthers pulled off an upset, but I think the Eagles will do just enough to survive and beat the Panthers. Jalen Hurts is playing almost MVP-like football over these last 3 weeks.
He really has, and we'll see that Saquon Barkley has a big showing there as well. AFC North, this will be interesting for the in-season Hard Knocks crowd. You got the Browns and the Steelers, and I think the question is going to be like, okay, we had that little, it's good, that high score between the Bengals and the Steelers last week. I think it's going to be the total opposite here. I think this might be one of those like 12-9, 12-6, type of deals. So Christine has the Steelers. I'm also going to pick the Steelers, but it's going to be close. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Cleveland pulls off the upset. But I'm picking the Steelers though.
It's very possible, but I'm going with the Steelers in a close one. They are favored by 6.5 at home.
Take the points, I guess, if you want to bet Cleveland. So that should be interesting. Let's see. Next up here, you got our Braceboro Deers will have the call of this game for CBS down in Tampa. You got Las Vegas. I almost get to Oakland. See, I caught myself there, but the Vegas Raiders against the Bucks. So the Bucks, I think they smell blood, especially with the Falcons struggling. They literally had to come down to the wire against the Panthers last week. I think the Bucks will take control of the division. So I'm picking Tampa. Christine also has Tampa. But I think Baker Mayfield, I know he's a little bit banged up, but I think you know how big of a fighter he is. So I think Tampa does just enough to win, I think, but I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah, should the Falcons lose at Minnesota on Sunday and Tampa holds on to beat the Raiders, Tampa Bay will take sole possession of first place in the NFC South. I believe Tampa Bay will get that done. Baker Mayfield, great year, 25 touchdown passes, 11 interceptions. Bucky Irving, who had the game of the year last year with his personal statistics last week against the Panthers, I think he'll continue to roll. Feed him the ball. The Buccaneers will win. They're favored by 6.5 at home. I'm going with Tampa.
Should be an interesting one down there, especially if the Falcons do end up losing to Minnesota. AFC South, Jaguars and Titans. Another one of these. I feel bad for whoever has to watch this game, but I guess someone's got to win. Christine has the Titans, but then again, I don't know honestly, who cares? but I don't think the people in Nashville and Jacksonville care. So I'll pick Tennessee too, just because they're at home. Because I guess someone's got to win.
Yeah, excuse me. No, you almost choke on myself mentioning that game. Make it 3 for me. I'm going with the Titans. They're favored by 3.5 at home.
Jeez, I feel for whoever has to get stuck watching that one. Sorry, folks, I got for Red Zone. To the 3 o'clock games we go. The interesting one here in the NFC West. You got the Seahawks, who are leading the NFC West, and the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals, I've picked y'all the last 2 weeks. I'm not picking y'all anymore. I'm picking Seattle. Geno Smith's been playing very well. DK Metcalf, Jackson, Enigma's been playing very well. And the defense for Seattle, look, they're not Legion of Boom type defense, but they're definitely putting their own Mike McDonald's putting another spin on that defense. So I think it'll be a close one, but I have Seattle now. Now, Christine does have the Cardinals, so I like if the Cardinals win, shame on me for not picking them. They might win knowing them how I've been doing that this year. But yeah, she got Arizona, but I'm picking Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle has a couple of big weapons on offense, especially with Jackson Snip and Jimba. Their number one wide receiver, 4 receiving touchdowns on the year, 829 receiving yards total. Of course, they have DK Metcalf. On the flip side for the Cardinals, their defense, as we talked about earlier in the year, Buda Baker is a big difference maker, the young linebacker for that Cardinals squad. We know about Kyler Murray. James Conner sort of got back on track with that running game last week, even though they did end up losing a heartbreaker to the Minnesota Vikings on the road. They're at home. I think they'll rebound with where they've been good all year. They're 4-2 on the year at home. I'm picking the Cardinals. They're favored by 2.5.
All right, should be a good one down there in Glendale, Arizona. All right, next up on the docket here, this should be an interesting one here. You got the Bills and the Rams. The other game in that Fox game, the Bills, they've already clinched the AFC East, and they can actually still get that number 1 seed. Of course, they got to keep winning. They got to hope the Chiefs, stumble along the way here. And Los Angeles, you really don't know what you're going to get from them. You thought that maybe they would, they're figuring things out, but they had a couple of setbacks here. So I think, I'm thinking Buffalo. I mean, they're traveling cross country. They're not going to play till 3:00, and I think Josh Allen wants to show folks that hey, he is one of the favorites for MVP. So I'm picking Buffalo.
I'm going with Buffalo here as well. Big win from the Rams last week on the road at New Orleans after being shut out in that first half. But the Bills are a better team. And some people may look at this as a classic trap game, but the Bills are the better team, and I think they have the better talent. And don't forget about Buffalo's defense, which has been much improved throughout this year. And not too many people are talking about that. So I expect the Bills to show up and win. I'm not going to say they're going to blow out the Rams, but they should have a close to a dominant performance as to their talent level. Buffalo's favored by 3.5 on the road.
Christine also has Buffalo, so that should be interesting. Could be a trap game, but we'll see what happens there now. Going to the primetime matchup, could be a good one here in the AFC West. You got the Chargers and the Chiefs, and look, I mean, I'm kind of, it's going to be interesting to see. I know the Chargers have been the Chiefs in Arrowhead before, so they're kind of used to, they're not gonna be scared by the crowds and stuff. I know the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and I don't know what the hell to think, but. Jesus, I'll pick Kansas City because they're at home. But if somehow the Chargers beat KC, it would be surprising because they did do it for 2 years in a row up until last season. But yeah, I'll pick Kansas City. I might regret this later, but I'm picking Kansas City. So is Christine. She also has Kansas City.
Both of y'all are going to be wrong. I'm going with the Chargers because Jim Harbaugh, what does he do best? He runs the football. Kansas City can run the football as well. But remember, Isaiah Pacheco is back, and it's going to take a couple of games for him to get his football timing in order. Kansas City cannot pass the ball right now with Patrick Mahomes. As we talked about last year, we talked about it again this year, is the Chiefs defense has been keeping them intact, and the way they've been playing cardiac kids type football, that you're going to run out of life support at some point. The Chargers defense has actually been pretty good, and their running game has been pretty good. Justin Herbert, this is the best position he's been in the last couple of years. So Chargers, they're going to be ready for this big physical fight, tough game on the road. As you mentioned, they beat Kansas City 2 out of the last 3 times, I believe, in Kansas City over the last few years. So even though it was under a different regime, but this team is ready. Harbaugh is not afraid at the moment. They'll bounce back, and the Chargers will win. Kansas City's favored by 4 at home.
Interesting. May take the points there too. If you're going to pick the Chargers, I would say take the points, but if that's what you're going to do. All right. Monday night, you got the Bengals and the Cowboys, and this will be simulcast on ABC. You got the Manning guys as well, and also ESPN Plus, ESPN Deportes, and Disney Plus, because it's going to be a Simpsons special there. So you're going to have little cool little characters there. So all you Disney subscribers, yeah, right. So all your Disney Plus subscribers, you'll be able to watch that game in a cool animation in a cool kind of way there. So let's just see how everybody looks with in anime, but. it'll be interesting to deal with this Bengals squad. I mean, they lost a lot of guys. I think one of their top defensive guys, I think he got hurt. I think he's done for the year. They really had kind of like a bruising performance against Pittsburgh. I know the Cowboys been playing a little bit better. They think they still have a shot to get into the playoffs. I don't know, but gosh, I mean, this could be a high scoring game. So if nothing else, that might be the case here. But I guess I'll pick Dallas just because they're at Jerry's World. I mean, I don't really. It'll be interesting, but yeah, and Chrissy feels the same way. She also picked Dallas. So yeah, I guess that's why I'm sticking with that. I guess I'm sticking with Dallas.
Take two, and I'll call you guys in the morning. I'm going with Cincinnati here. I know their defense stinks, but Dallas Cowboys defense outside of Micah Parsons is not nothing to write home about either. I know you had Cooper Rush as your starting quarterback for the rest of the year, but Cincinnati has better talent offensively than Dallas does. So I'm going with the Bengals here, and they're currently favored by 5 points on the road.
All right, last but not least, you got the Bears and 49ers over, and I see our buddy, our new friend Larry Beil's, on standby waiting. So hopefully, but gosh, I mean, Thomas Brown, new voice in the building. Everyone's raving about him. They're calling him Mike Tomlin type guy, and I'm interested to see like how the Bears will respond because a lot of those guys aren't there. Like the people that say we're giving them problems, Shane Waldron, Eberflus, they're not there anymore. So it's basically put up or shut up time if you're the Bears. So hopefully they'll play better. They'll have a little bit of a better start than the last few weeks. But San Francisco still has a lot to play for. Like you said earlier, they're still wide within striking distance of that division. So it'll be a close one like it usually is. We may see something fluky happen here as well because that's just how it works for the Bears last few weeks.
The Bears going to bear.
Yeah, Bears are bearing, especially if that report about what they said about not wanting Harbaugh is true, but that's another conversation. But I'll pick San Francisco only because I think again they have not been the Bears since they've opened at the new stadium over there in Santa Clara, so they got a lot to play for. I think they still want to kind of have a shot to perhaps maybe get that division, the NFC West. It'll be close, but I think San Francisco wins, and I think Chrissy also feels the same way. She also has San Fran.
I'll be the meatball here. I'm going with the Bears because, as you mentioned, the players that wanted Shane Waldron and Matt Eberflus gone, they have their wish now. If it's not the time to get refocused and get back on track, I don't know what time it is or when will be the best time. The Bears, everything is feeling good right now, obviously, because you haven't played the game yet. But I think these guys will be refocused, and you'll see them play fundamentally sound football. Jalen Johnson, as I mentioned, he'll get back on track. DJ Moore, who's been complaining for the last few weeks, I think he's been having a great couple of weeks. He finally gets back on track. All starts and ends with that running game with DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson, which takes the pressure off of Caleb Williams. Remember, 5 touchdown passes, no interceptions ever since Thomas Brown's been taking over the offensive play call and now the new head coach as well. So I expect that trend to continue. It's going to be a close one, but I'm sticking my neck out there. I'm going with Chicago. San Francisco's favored currently by 3.5.
So I think a lot of money is going to the Bears too. Kenny Albert and Jonathan Villa will have the call for that game for the Bears and 49ers on Sunday. So they might have a good one, and they might say something. Somewhere might happen. So you never know. But those are our picks for NFL Week 14.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sia Lakina here with you. Our new friend of the show, Larry Beil from ABC7 out there in San Francisco. He'll be coming up in a minute as we'll preview our Bears and 49ers from the San Francisco side of things, and we'll talk about other Barrier sports happenings out there on the West Coast. Lakina, your favorite time of the year? College football championship Saturday, actually championship weekend. I know there's a couple of games tonight, and the rest will take place tomorrow. What games are you looking forward to this weekend?
I'm intrigued by this matchup between UNLV and Boise State. I know UNLV. I know they say they kept it close to Boise State early, a couple of weeks back, and of course, Boise State were kind of pulling off late. I think they've kind of gotten, I know they got slow down Ashton Genty, the running back for Boise State, who will probably end up going to New York for the Heisman ceremony coming up in a couple of weeks. And they really need to kind of get a jump start that Boise State squad and try to force them to force field goals and perhaps maybe get their defense to kind of because they were right there in that game a couple of weeks back. So hopefully they can kind of get it going there for UNLV. And the Big 12 matchup, I don't think anybody had these two teams facing each other this early this season. Tomorrow morning, this will be on ABC. Incidentally, the UNLV boys, they will be on 7 o'clock on the Big Fox Network. Iowa State, Arizona State for the Big 12 championship. That'll be at 11 a.m. on ABC. This is definitely a playoff implication in this game, too. I think the winner here gets that playoff spot. Iowa State, I think, they've been kind of like, all year long. Rocky Beck has been, probably one of the top young quarterbacks. He's only a sophomore, so he's definitely going to be the key here. I know Stephen Lev has been, very solid for Arizona State. I know Tyson, he's gone for the year, so that could be a big loss for that Arizona State receiving core. But they've got a lot of great receivers behind them, so hopefully they got to pick up the slack. So that should be a fun one tomorrow morning. And that's going to be in Arlington now. Ohio and Miami of Ohio. That's the MAC championship at Ford Field on 11 a.m. on ESPN. What do you think about this SEC matchup for the championship? You got Texas, their first ever SEC championship game going against Georgia. So at 3 o'clock on ABC. Where do you see this game, Sid?
I think it's going to be a struggle fight to the finish. We know Texas has been one of the top teams of the country all year at 11-1. Even when Quinn Ayers was down, Arch Manning picked it up, and Texas has been rolling ever since. I know Ayers is back now, but Carson Beck, he had a shaky start to the season, but he's had a nice year, rebounded nicely with 28 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So that Georgia defense, is a brand of don't break defense. They've been struggling too so far, especially in the earlier part of the year. I think it's going to come down to a field goal here. So I think Georgia is going to pull it out, even though me personally, I want Texas to win. Sorry, Jay Hood out there, ESPN 1000 Chicago. He's a big Georgia Bulldogs fan, but I think Georgia will pull this one out by a field goal, but Texas is going to give Georgia all they can handle. Georgia is vulnerable. The first time you can say that in the last about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think Georgia's starting to kind of get it going. I know they've had a couple of hiccups early on, but I think this will be another classic SEC matchup down there in Atlanta, so it should be a fun one there. It's going to be at 3 o'clock on ABC. Marshall and Louisiana, that's for the Conference USA Championship game, I believe. That's going to be on ESPN at 6:30. The Big Ten Championship, I don't think anybody had this matchup, of course. Penn State gets in lieu of Ohio State losing to Michigan for the 4th straight year. They face Oregon in Lucas Oil Stadium in Indy, and CBS, it's going to be at 7 o'clock. So Oregon, does Penn State have a shot?
I think they do have a shot, but I want to see what type of defense they play against Dylan Gabriel. Can they force 2 or more turnovers? If they can, I think they have a shot to pull off an upset. But if they cannot be aggressive against Dylan Gabriel, I think it's going to be a long night for them. I'm taking Oregon to win here. I know they're currently favored by 3.5, but I think it's going to be a good game. But I think offensively, the Ducks just have too much for Penn State.
Should be a good one down there in Indy. And last but not least, the ACC Championship game. Clemson in lieu of Miami and losing to Syracuse. You're welcome. Thanks to Kyle McCord. I'm hoping that they gave him some nice little gifts there. Clemson did. And they faced SMU, who this is going to be their first big championship game in a while. So 7 o'clock on ABC, and you get to see the Mustangs in action. I know some people probably haven't watched a lot of the Mustangs this season. No, this is not Eric Dickerson or Craig James back in the Pony Express, not those days, not that far back, but they kind of have a very similar type of style. Look, I mean, Clemson got Kevin Jennings. It's gonna be their first meeting this year. They have not played each other this year, so they're gonna be seeing each other for the first time. He's only a sophomore. Talking about Kevin Jennings, he can pass, he can run. We know what Cole Klubnik can do for Clemson, so this should be an interesting matchup down there in Charlotte.
Also, to watch out for Brashard Smith, SMU's star running back. He has 14 rushing touchdowns over the year, close to 1,200 yards on the year. But on the flip side, Antonio Williams from Clemson, 10 receiving touchdowns on the year off of 66 receptions. I look for him to have a big game. And Kate Klubnik, I'm looking for him to perform one more time on a big stage.
All right, all these great championship games coming up tonight and tomorrow. So it should be a fun one as we get closer and closer to having our first ever expanded playoff.
All right. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina here with you on the hashtag Football Friday. Stick and stay as Larry Beil from ABC7 out there in San Francisco will join us to preview the Chicago Bears and the San Francisco 49ers and discuss other Bay Area sports news from out there in the West Coast. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome
back to Second City Sports on the hashtag.
No, go ahead.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago, hashtag Football Friday edition. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. As we try to get back on track here. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
Darn Wi-Fi delays. You can find my Kita McKee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
If you have any questions or comments, especially for our next guest, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. McKenna will get the up on the screen for you.
All right, so let's not waste any time. Of course, if you're in the San Francisco, in the Bay Area, you can watch him on ABC7 Chicago. He's a sports anchor there. We're going to talk some more Bears, 49ers, and the rest of the Bay Area sports scene. Here is Mr. Larry Beil. Larry, how are you?
Good. It's funny. The Wi-Fi
gets all of us. You know, I mean, without Wi-Fi, we can't do anything at this point. I was in Las Vegas over the weekend for a family get-together, and I won't mention the hotel, but they had 3 towers without Wi-Fi, and we were all freaking out.
Yeah. That usually what happens. That's what happens when you have no Wi-Fi. I think everybody,
Yep.
The world's coming to an end, basically. Let's get to it and talk some 49ers Bears. What's the mood like in San Francisco? I mean, is there still a lot of belief that the 49ers they can still win the division, perhaps, or have they? I know they haven't given up, but what's the mood out there in San Francisco with the 49ers?
You know, I think it depends who you ask. Kyle Shanahan is getting a lot of these questions this week because outside the building, you know, we look at it realistically. You're 5-7. You haven't won more than 2 games in a row. The only thing that really gives you an opportunity is that the rest of the division is mediocre at best. So even at 5-7, if they were to get hot, whatever, you know, hot is in this weird season for them, you know, they have a chance. I don't think that they really have much of a chance, but, you know, they got to play out the games nonetheless. It's just been the whole vibe has been wrong, really, from the day after they lost the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. And you had Brandon Ayuk's girlfriend posting on social media about, you know, how it's time to get paid. And that lasted for months and months and months. Trent Williams held out. So neither one of them was really in shape when they started the season. And then a slew of injuries. Christian McCaffrey didn't even play the first half of the season because of injuries to both Achilles, tendonitis, you know, probably the result of overtraining in the offseason. But they're so banged up. Fred Warner's playing with a broken ankle. I mean, come on. So I don't see them making a big push. Having said that, they are playing the Bears. So
we all know about that feeling. I want to ask you about Brock Purdy. He came on the scene a couple of years ago. He is a new boy wonder. Of course, you talked about what happened in the Super Bowl last year. Now that some people are debating whether Brock Purdy was going to get the bag after this season. So far, he has 13 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. I know he returned last week, but the results didn't matter because Buffalo was so far ahead. Give us your thoughts about Brock Purdy so far this year. And do you think he's going to get close to what he wants this offseason, no matter how this season finishes up?
You know, it's a weird thing about the quarterbacks and their salaries. This thing really got out of control a few years ago when the Giants absurdly decided that Daniel Jones was worth $40 million a year. And since then, it's just been, you know, it doesn't even matter if you're great. It's just you're the next guy in line to get paid. And so it just keeps escalating. And now, you know, Dak Prescott got $60 million a year. I don't know, given Brock's personality, that he's the type to really just hold out or make a big fuss about it. I mean, you know, what can you buy with $60 million a year that you can't buy with $50 million a year? I don't know. Probably some things, but I think he's going to get paid regardless. You know, I know there's some people saying, well, you know, now's the time to make a trade and you can get, you know, somebody back and maybe you get Shedeur Sanders in the draft. Blah, blah, blah. I just don't see that. That's not really the way the 49ers roll. And so I expect him to be back. I expect him to be paid. And, you know, the problem with that is that paying him means you have to make some other decisions. So that means you're likely going to see some people that, you know, have been a significant part of the 49ers roster making an exit. And that's what's going to be difficult because they have so many needs at this point because of injuries. I mean, you got Trent Williams and Dominic Puni on the offensive line. They're rock solid, although Trent has been banged up a lot, and this year's got an ankle injury. And he and Charvarius Ward both tragically lost babies during the course of the past year. It's just been and you know, Ricky Pearsall getting shot. It's just been basically the season from hell. So they're going to have to make some really difficult decisions about who they want to spend their money on, and it's hard. I can see them saying goodbye to Debo. I could see them, you know, saying goodbye to a bunch of people, to be quite honest.
Yeah, speaking of Debo, I know he's been banged up, been in and out of the lineup. George Kittle's also been in and out of the lineup. Who do you think is going to be like the big key here if San Francisco wants to perhaps maybe still have a shot, if you will, for the NFC West.
Well, I've been saying all along that Kittle should be much more featured in the offense, especially when you've just lost your two tailbacks. McCaffrey came back, immediately suffers a knee injury after a couple games. Jordan Mason was great, but he's got a shoulder issue. He's hurt. And so now you're going with a rookie, Isaac Orendo, who's your main back. He's fun to watch, but they're claiming guys off of, the waiver wires just to try to fill up the running back room. I would certainly do a lot more with Kittle in the offense. And, unfortunately, they don't have a ton of other dynamic weapons. Debo, he's a guy, he's so much fun to watch, and he's so versatile, and he gives Shanahan the ability to move people around, and you're not sure. It confuses the defense, but he's a guy who he loves to run to contact. Some guys run away from contact. He runs to contact. And if you do that long enough in the NFL, you're going to get hurt. So he gets banged up a lot, and it limits his production. He's another guy. Like I said, I think they're going to have to make a serious decision about what they want to do with him going forward, because right now they're paying him, I think he's almost at like $25 million a year, and Ayuk's getting $30 million a year. $55 million a year for guys who aren't making plays, and one guy's hurt. Yeah, that just doesn't work.
We're talking with Larry Beil from ABC7 out there in San Francisco, previewing Bears 49ers right here on the Hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid McKinney here with you. Sticking with that 49ers offense, Larry, we talked about George Kittle, Debo Samuel. I want to ask you about Juwan Jennings. We saw what he could do last year in limited action. This year, it looks like he's getting more targets. Talk to us about his impact on the 49ers this year on offense, and what do you expect from him on Sunday against Chicago?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned him, because his nickname the past couple of years was Third and Juwan, because inevitably he would get open on third down. They need to start throwing the ball to him on first down and second down, and every down, because he's not like a blazing speed guy, but he knows how to get open, and he's been a terrific player for them. Probably underutilized because they just had so many stars to distribute the ball to. But I would expect he would be another featured part of the offense. He was bothered by a hip injury that kept him out for a while. But he's a dynamic player and a really clutch player. If you think back to the Super Bowl, remember, he threw a touchdown pass and he caught a touchdown pass. If the 49ers would have won that game, he was probably the Super Bowl MVP. And, so he was that close to, how many guys get to put that on their resume? And instead, we all know Mahomes them. And I have PTSD from that guy. I got to tell you, just watch him do what he does is pretty amazing. But, Juwan is a really good kind of overshadowed receiver because the Niners have so many stars on offense.
There's even with all the injuries, we'll talk a little about the defense for a second. It's still a very good top 10 defense. We talked about Warner, like you said, he's playing with a broken ankle. Leonard Floyd is a former Chicago player. Of course, you got him from the Los Angeles Rams. So this defense, though, do you think the defense can get the 49ers if they have to drag them to the playoffs, even though the offense has been struggling with injuries too?
The interesting stat on their defense is in their rush defense, when they win, they hold teams to under 75 yards. And when they lose, teams are up over 150. So it really comes down to rush defense and can you get off the field on third down. Against the Bears, they might be able to do that. But it just hasn't looked anything like the typical 49ers defense. And I would expect that they're going to make another change this offseason. Last year, Steve Wilkes was the defensive coordinator. He was blamed for everything because he wanted to blitz and blitz and blitz and blitz. And now they got Nick Sorensen, who was elevated on the staff, and he doesn't want to blitz, 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 blitz. And so they're caught in the middle. And I don't want to get too technical, but they play this wide nine defense. And if Bosa's not there because he's injured, and it makes it hard to keep the offensive linemen off the linebackers if everybody's so spread out and not making plays. And so they have, like I said, they have a lot of decisions to make as to how they want to go forward. But if they could bring Robert Saleh back, that's what I would do. If I was in charge. Fired from the Jets, he's kind of in a consultant role with Green Bay. He knows their defense and ran it really, really well. Now, again, you have different personnel. Dre Greenlaw's another guy that, they lost him in the Super Bowl to the freakest of injuries. Who gets hurt running onto the field? Who tears their Achilles jogging onto the field? I mean, it's just been nuts, like the bizarreness of some of this stuff. The defense, I think the one thing the 49ers really have for them is a level of desperateness because, look, the Bears have lost 6 in a row. They're not thinking about playoffs at this point. The 49ers still have this glimmer of hope, this slim shot. And I think they know, they after the last couple of games where they really didn't play well and just completely overmatched, if they can find some way to get on a magical run here, maybe they can win the division. Otherwise, I would expect them to start shutting guys down pretty soon because there will be very little to gain going forward if they don't win on Sunday.
Assuming that the 49ers don't win on Sunday or perhaps make the playoffs, Larry, me and Lakina talked about this earlier, as well as everybody else that's listening and watching, that the NFC West is crowded. We didn't expect the standings to look like this at this point in the year. You have Seattle leading the way, followed by the Rams and the Cardinals. Assuming the 49ers don't make the playoffs, who do you see winning the NFC West?
Flip a coin, man. I mean, you got 7 and 5, and 6 and 6. I mean, it's I thought Seattle was going to be really good coming into this season, and they were for a little bit. Then they hit the skids, and now they're back. Somehow they're back in first place, which makes no sense. I went as a fan. I went to the last Niners Seahawks game, and I was one of those folks. They're up. They're going to win the game. We're going to get out of here with a couple minutes left, only to see Geno drive the Seahawks down the field and win on a scramble with 12 seconds left. I'm standing in the parking lot. I'm looking up at the Jumbotron, which I could see from outside the stadium. I'm like, oh my God, you got to come on. I guess Seattle, but I don't have I wouldn't be putting my mortgage money down on that. It's just, the whole division is really mediocre. It depends on who plays best on any given day. And like I said, whoever wins, they can go, yeah, division champs, and then lose the next week in a wild card game, and it'll be over because none of these teams is really very good.
No, not at all. We'll get back to the 49ers in a second, but I want to talk about the rest of the Bay Area sports scene with you, Larry, since we have you on with us. Golden State, we'll start with them. They got a nice win against Houston last night. Yeah. They're 13-8 in that that crazy Western Conference. What do you think? You think the Warriors can kind of be right there in the challenging, can challenge with the OKCs and the Mavs the way this is constructed right now?
Well, if you asked me after the first 10 games of the season, I would have said, yeah. But they've really struggled. In fact, it was kind of surprising that they were able to win last night and beat the Rockets without Steph Curry and without Draymond Green. Jonathan Kuminga went off, and he scored 33 points. I'm one of the people, there's like two groups in the Bay Area. I'm part of the group that said they should have made the trade for Lauri Markkanen in the offseason with the Jazz. As long as it wasn't too outrageous in terms of giving up the picks, I would have given up Podziemski. I would have given up Kuminga. If I had to throw Moses Moody in there, I would reluctantly do that. But I still think they're going to come, December, January, just before the trade deadline, and they're going to have to make a move to do something. You can't play 12 guys. You can't play 13 guys. And they still have the same problem that they've had for the past few years, which is there's no secondary scorer that you can count on every game. Andrew Wiggins is like this. He's up and down, up and down. Last night he was up, and he was up partly because he and Kuminga both knew if they weren't going to get aggressive, they were going to get, blown out potentially. So the tricky part is, okay, how can you get those two guys to be at maximum efficiency while Steph has the ball most of the time? And that's something that they have not been able to figure out. And that's why I say they whether it's Nikola Vucevic, whether, it's somebody else, they need to do something, because, right now they'll, probably be either a play-in or, 7 seed, 8 seed, something like that. And that's not where they want to be at all. Not for the amount of money that they're paying in salaries and luxury tax. So the question is, all right, who? Find a disgruntled superstar out there that would want to come play with Steph. I was holding out hope. As much as I love Dame Lillard, who's from Oakland, I wanted to see the Bucks lose and lose and lose and lose, because Giannis Antetokounmpo and Steph have a great friendship. And if you imagine Giannis and Steph together, oh man, that'd be so much fun. So I don't think that's likely to occur, but they're going to have to figure out some way to do something with somebody to get a player back who can score.
Yeah, you mentioned all the changes on player personnel in the front office too, with Bob Myers not being there. Mike Dunleavy is the new GM now. After the 2022 World Championship victory over Boston, what grade would you give Coach Steve Kerr for handling all this over the last few years or so?
That's a good question. It can't be too high, because they kind of flamed out last year. I guess I would go B-, C+. He's a friend of mine, so it's hard for me to be too harsh, grading him. I've known Steve for a really long time. I just don't think that they've had the horses to win the race, and that's been the problem. They did in 2022. That was sort of a complete shock, I think, to people inside and outside the organization, because nobody was projecting that going into that season. But Wiggins played great. Steph was out of his mind, especially against the Celtics, and they had enough other pieces who were contributing. It doesn't feel the same anymore. It feels like it's more random on a nightly basis as to what they're trying to accomplish. And their defense just hasn't been very good. If they don't turn the ball over and they play good defense, they can beat anybody any night. We've seen that over and over and over again. But as soon as I see Steph with his infamous hook pass that is intercepted 90% of the time, I just go, and remember, they had Jordan Poole then, and Jordan, he can be a prolific scorer, and he was. He saved them on so many nights, and then you had the whole Draymond situation and all that stuff. And so, he ends up playing in Washington, but they still haven't figured out who that dude is who can get them 20, 25 a night, or if Steph is having an off night like he did a few games ago, if he's going to go, 7 of 24, who's going to be the guy that scores 30 that night? It's either Kuminga or Kuminga. and that's it. I mean, Wiggins will get you 20, but that's about it. They don't have a lot of other guys who can just go off.
Yeah. Talk about Steph for a second, because we've seen all the great. He's still making great shots even at his age. He finally got that gold medal over the summer.
Yeah.
Just tell us about Steph. The fact that he's still able to hit shots and do the things he does at his age.
It's incredible. I mean, we're so lucky here, and I tell people all the time, these are the good old days right now, because when Steph is gone and when LeBron is gone, the NBA is going to look completely different and feel completely different. It's a little bit ironic that, LeBron is struggling right now. He's had one of the worst stretches of his career. Yeah, guess what? 39, 40 years old. That's what happens. And, Charles Barkley has talked about this a lot. When you're in your 20s, you can pretty much night in, night out, you're going to get your production if you're a great player. When you hit 30s, especially after 35, yeah, you can do it, except it's probably going to be once a week or, once in every 3 games. It's not going to be night after night after night after night. And that's kind of what we're seeing with Steph. he'll have really good games, and then his shooting efficiency goes way down. So, I mean, he's still greatest shooter for all time. That's, never going away. He's going to be able to fall out of bed when he's, 60 years old and hit threes better than, probably anybody in his age group. But he's unbelievable. I mean, just on and off the court, he's the best. And Steve Kerr would tell you they wouldn't have a prayer, not only of winning, but also keeping the locker room together without Steph. Earlier in the season, there was a game where Steph, I'm trying to remember if it was a crazy shot that he took or he turned the ball. I think it was he turned the ball over, and Steve just lit into him on the bench. He immediately called timeout, and he was screaming. And we're seeing a lot of Steve screaming this season, unfortunately. But after the game, this was a potential controversy. Like, you're screaming at Steph Curry. And Steph said, I want to be coached hard. I want to be coached hard. So we're good. Yeah, he said, I shouldn't have done that. I did something, I turned it over. And we're talking about limiting our turnovers. That's on me. So when you have a guy like that, as opposed to somebody who's at his elite level, who's going to accept that kind of thing, then that it tells everybody else on the roster, if Steve is going to yell at Steph, well, the rest of us are going to get yelled at too, and we better pay attention. We have to, execute the game plan and stop messing around sometimes.
We're heading down the home stretch with our new friend of the program, Mr. Larry Beil, sports director from ABC 7 San Francisco. He's hanging out here with us on Sports Zone Chicago's Second City Sports. Sid Lakina here with you. Larry, let's go over the baseball right now. You had a great commentary a few months ago about the Oakland Athletics leaving the Bay Area. Now they're going to be playing in Sacramento for the next 3 years. I know. I'm from Chicago. I'm a White Sox fan, and I'm feeling your pain too. But I watched the last game at the old Oakland Coliseum against Texas, and you couldn't help but get emotional what the fans feel for that organization. The players felt it too. Mark Hartsey, former player and current manager, spoke in front of the fans following the victory, and it was very touching and very tough for you Oakland sports fans out there. What are your feelings still today, since the A's are officially no longer going to be playing in the Bay Area?
It's just sad. And I think the saddest part of it is that the owner, John Fisher, who, by the way, hit the genetic lottery because he was born into a billionaire family. So that's, where his money comes from. He's right up there with your boy Reinsdorf for, worst owner in baseball. And he doesn't want to spend money. He doesn't want to spend money. So what really baffles me is why the rest of the owners in Major League Baseball would allow this guy to run his franchise into the ground. Keep in mind, there was a story this week, and I've been saying this on TV, all the time, is that whatever the budget was going to be a couple of years ago when they started hatching this plan, there's a little thing called inflation. And so what was a $1.25 billion stadium proposal is now $1.75 billion. And anybody that's watching this that's ever been involved in home repair, home construction, anything like that, if they tell you 1.75, think 2.25 is what it's really going to cost, at least. So I don't see, it wouldn't shock me if the Vegas thing falls apart. Because I just don't know that they're going to get the financing. And it's just going to get more and more expensive every day, every delay. And comically, John Fisher sent a letter to this Las Vegas governmental board. And what the letter said was essentially, don't worry, I got the money. I guess if you're a billionaire, you could try to get away with that. If you and I went to the bank and said, yeah, I want to buy this house. Don't worry. I got the money. I got it. Yeah, you just get laughed out of the bank. And I just don't know. Let me put it this way. The reason they ended up in Sacramento is because there's another billionaire who's John Fisher's buddy, by the name of Vivek Ranadive. Vivek owns the Sacramento Kings. He also owns that stadium that the A's are going to play in. He's allowing the A's to play there rent-free for 3 years. Why would anybody do that? Like, unless it was like your best friend or something like that. But the reason he's doing that is because he's banking on Fisher failing in Vegas. And if he fails in Vegas, he's guessing that Major League Baseball is going to look like, well, they're in Sacramento now. Let's just keep them in Sacramento. And if, they can add on to the stadium or build something new there, then the A's would stay in Sacramento. That's the reason that they're going there, because Vivek believes Fisher's going to fail. So that tells you something right there. But, even in Sacramento, fans are not excited about seeing one of the cheapest teams with the cheapest owners, which, doesn't keep its star players, develops and flips everybody. I mean, it's just a brutal way to run a franchise. So, wow, it's getting sunny here. I'm trying to find a spot where I'm not in the sun, but anyway, it's just a tragedy for A's fans that they've had to, suffer through this. And, the narrative that MLB is going to, spin is that there's no fan base. The fan base isn't loyal, all that stuff. Well, this is really more challenging than I thought it was going to be. Anyhow, it's not the fans. The fans just despise the owner and hate the way the franchise is run. That's why they had these boycotts. That's why all this went on. And the fan base is great. They're incredible, to be honest, to put up with all the stuff that they've put up with. And they're the ones that are going to suffer. And I don't see, unless there's some magical miracle that takes place, I don't see them getting an expansion team. I know there's a couple of groups out there that are trying to push for that if the A's leave. You're talking, probably 10 years down the road if it happens at all.
Well, let's talk about a team that is still there in the Bay Area, and that's the Giants. You got the GM meetings coming up this weekend, starting this weekend. And, Giants, disappointing season last season. Do you see them making any moves to, freshen up their roster? And you still now have the Dodgers, so the juggernaut there to worry about. So what do you think the Giants got to do to kind of at least try to be right there with the Dodgers in the NL West?
They're not going to be there with the Dodgers in the NL West. I'm sorry. They're before the season even begins, they're playing for a wild card. That's just the way it is. I mean, I mentioned this to one of my coworkers, because if you look at the Dodgers with the Shohei deal and with the Yamamoto deal and with some of the other contracts that they've given out, they're deferring $1 billion in payments to these players. $1 billion down the line. Why would Shohei do that? So that he doesn't get double taxed in Japan and the United States. So he's like, I'll take my money in endorsements. We'll leave the baseball money for when I retire and go back home. They're playing chess. The Giants are playing checkers. It's just what it is. And the Giants do this thing every year, and they did it again this year, even though they changed, director of baseball ops. They kick the tires on every free agent, and it always leaks out. Oh, we're after Judge. We're after, whoever is the next superstar, and they never get any of them. And they did the same thing on this Juan Soto opportunity. I'm just like, stop talking. You never get anybody of that magnitude. Stop. You just look ridiculous. And, Juan Soto's not coming to the Giants. They can talk all they want about, we're in on it. We're in on it. Yeah, you're in watching the Yankees and the Mets bid for him. That's what you're in on. So, they've got some answers that they got to come up with. Blake Snell leaving, not a surprise at all. He Scott Boras' client waited till the end to sign, showed up, and he just wasn't in shape. Was great towards the back end of the season, but he was winning games that were meaningless because the Giants weren't in contention. So they got to come up with another really good pitcher. Corbin Burns has been mentioned. So we'll see if that happens, because he's, from the Bay Area. But I don't see any way that they're remotely close to competing with the Dodgers or the Padres, for that matter. going forward. Unless they decide they really want to go all in financially, and at the same time they're talking about trying to get Juan Soto. The owner talks about, well, if we could just break even, we're good. Oh, really? Is that what our goal is? Oh, okay. I'll keep that in mind when I'm deciding to buy tickets to a game. Yeah, I'm trying to break even too. Yeah.
Last question from me, Larry. It's been an honor and pleasure talking to you today. I was having this discussion with Lakina when she told me that she booked you for our show for today. I remember watching you in the late 90s and the early 2000s on ESPN and Sports Center. You did great work, and of course ESPN. Watching it was a great time back in our childhood. But next month will be, unfortunately, in due respect, the 10-year anniversary of the passing of Stuart Scott. Tell us about your experience working at ESPN and working with Stuart Scott. What kind of person was he off the air and on the air?
Oh man, I was not expecting that. So that question. So I'm gonna have to regroup here for a second. When my family was in Connecticut, Stuart and I were friends. Our kids used to have play dates together, and we had work spaces 10 feet apart. It's just a tragic loss. And I saw him. I didn't get to see him in the last year before he passed. I saw him shortly before that, and he was really getting into mixed martial arts. And at the time I was, like a karate guy. So I was like, hey, we got to get together. But he was, back east and I was on the West Coast. So it never really happened. And then the inevitable, it's hard. It's hard. He was great in so many ways. I'll just give you a story, and I know you two will appreciate this. So in the early days, Stuart, he was on ESPN2 a lot. That's what he was primarily hired to do. And then, there's only there was 11 or 12 of us, not the 1,000 people they have on the air now. And so, Stuart was doing his stuff when he's doing the highlights. He was doing the rap lyrics and all this stuff. And, a bunch of us were like, the management didn't really like it. And, they made it pretty clear. And, so a few of us, kind of grabbed him on the side and said, hey, man, this is not working. And he was like, I hear you. I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And he was right. He was right, because he was able to connect with an audience that we couldn't. And, Michael Jordan took a real liking to him, both Carolina guys, and that relationship really helped elevate his status in a lot of ways, because anytime there was an interview with MJ, it was with Stu. And then it snowballed from there, deservedly so. So I'm really glad that he ignored everything I told him because it worked out great for his career. And I see his daughters, when the ESPYs come around, and I'm really happy that they're in a good place, and they were raised right. And, we just we'll always miss, Stu.
Same here. And his daughters have grown to very wonderful young ladies. So he would be very proud, and proud of you too, because you've moved on to good things, and you do a great job in San Francisco with the ABC affiliate there. This has been such an honor, Larry. Thank you so much. We could go another 20-30 minutes with you. I wish we could, but we're definitely gonna have you back on.
I got to go to work. I got to go to
right,
my real
exactly.
job.
So we'll let you go. So so where people can find you on ABC 7 San Fran.
All right, take care.
All right, or where people can find you on social media.
At Larry Beil, ABC 7, And on Instagram, just Larry Beil.
All right.
I'm easy to find. Just look for Crazy Man ranting about the A's. It'll pop up. You'll see it from there.
All right, Larry. Thank you so much again. You stay safe, and we'll definitely have you back on again.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too.
Hey, thank you, Larry.
All right.
Thanks. All right. So that was so much fun, and we'll end on that note. That we're you can find my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at Ward Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are located on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give Ward Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live and they live in color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live and they live in color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Oh, and a quick note, of course, Luke Richardson is out as the Blackhawks head coach. Anders Sorensen, will take over. Real quick, Sid, what do you think? Because we talked about it before we got on. I don't think we were expecting that news, especially this early.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, the Blackhawks have lost a lot of close games this year. They just can't get over the hump. There's been some games that look terrible too. So, this was supposed to be an improvement year. Not so much going to the Stanley Cup playoffs, but it was supposed to be an improvement year. We'll see what this new coach brings. So, hopefully they'll get a turnaround quickly. Do I expect playoffs? No. Do I expect some improvement with some of the young prospects coming up later on in the season? Yes. I'll leave it there.
All right, some of the names are being flown around. Look, if they get Bruce Boudreau to come in, the coach Connor Bedard. Oh God, I'd be in the NHL heaven if they were able to make that happen.
There would be something.
All right, so enjoy. Of course, you can catch the replays of the show anytime, anywhere, right there on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
Enjoy all. Of course, we want to thank ABC7 San Francisco's Larry Beil for joining us today. A great insight. We're definitely going to have him back on. Like I said, he has stories, great knowledge, and I'm glad we were able to get him on today.
Yeah, and did a little dig on Ryan Storm too. Truthful, but I enjoyed it.
Well, no, don't say that. I started chuckling when he said we made that day. So guys, enjoy the NFL, the championship weekend in college football, college hoops, NBA, NHL, so much. Women's college basketball, and so much more. This time of year is always great. So for us, on the can, stay warm, stay safe out there. This is Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. We'll see you guys next week.
Go Bears! Holla!